In this video we want to talk about technology. More specifically, we want to talk about computer networks and the development of the internet technology. So we're going to start by looking at the so-called architecture of the World Wide Web. So let's start our talk in this area. Well, the web is based on a three-part architecture. For a start, it's got a hypertext markup language, HTML, which describes the content of web pages on the internet. So the HTML framework, of course, is being updated all the time, and new functionality is coming into it all the time, and it's likely to become more fluent in its use of video, multimedia, the requirements of modern day living, more so than perhaps just handling text or handling web pages as it did in the past. We also have the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP, which provides the language that allows servers and browsers to communicate. Clearly, having a language that they understand is necessary, but they also must be able to communicate, and they must be able to do this by establishing links between servers and browsers. They must be able to establish what's sometimes referred to as a handshake. They must understand each other. So it's possible for, let's say, customers or individuals at home with PCs or laptops or iPads or whatever, they should be able to make contact with their servers, and to do this through the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. There's also a Common Gateway Interface known as a CGI, and this is used by web servers to run a separate program that contains dynamic information. The CGI formats this dynamic information into HTML and sends it to the web server. For example, a user at a virtual bookstore requesting information on a book. Now they would enter the book title into HTML form on the website. So the website would simply have a form requesting the user to enter some information. This is sent to the web server, which uses CGI, Common Gateway Interface, to gather the appropriate book title from the database and return the information formatted to the user. So it's the CGI program that finds the information. So on the one hand, we have the users who fill out a form simply on their web browser using HTML. The form is transferred to the server using the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and when it gets there, it's interpreted by the Common Gateway Interface, by the CGI script, which then retrieves the information perhaps from a database and sends it back formatted to the browser. So the architecture of modern day internet communications is based on these three components. These are central to the use of modern day communications. Now, connection on the internet. Well, modern internet depends on the interaction of a number of levels of providers and individual users. So our contact over the internet is a function of the number of nodes through which the information has to flow. So for example, if I access a site in, say, India, and I live in the UK, it may have to go through many different servers to find its route to the site that I'm requesting from India. Now it may take time, because some parts of the internet may be very busy, other parts may not be so busy, and it's got to find its way to the server that holds the site that I'm looking for, and then return the information to me. But it's also the case, of course, that the more people that use the facility, the slower it'll be, because the servers, the hardware, will have to work harder to deliver the information. Now, against all of this, of course, is the fact that technology is improving, machines are becoming faster, there's better connections, there's better technology involved, and more of it. So therefore, we have improvements. So on the one hand we have improvements, on the other hand we have a larger user base. So overall we hope that we have a better service. So the individuals contact the internet service provider. These are the companies through which we buy our access to the internet, normally we're using a telephone line. Then the ISP, the internet access provider, goes to a national access provider, and the national access provider will route the information through, and this is all done, of course, via routers that are on the internet. The national access provider is connected to a very high speed backbone, sometimes known as spine, the spine of the internet. This VBNS, the Very High Speed Backbone Network Service, I think this was introduced back in 1995. And this provides very high speed from different centers. So for example, between Europe and America there will be VBNS connections, very high speed backbone connections. Now admittedly the speed may be impaired somewhat when it gets to the other side or gets into Europe, where it has to be routed through to us individually. Likewise in America it'll slow down in a sense because it needs to find its way through to the particular server or the particular user in America who access the service. But by and large we don't feel this as a big problem, because we are dealing with electronics, we're dealing with something which passes incredibly fast down a wire. So the information is incredibly fast most of the time. But the internet networks in countries have these VBNS, these very fast spine connections, which go from perhaps city to city or from region to region, from one country to another country and so on, and internet traffic is routed through to those. They have the volume and the capacity to enable the network to run at high speed. The various links use passwords and security protocols to allow access to the internet. Clearly our presence on the internet is threatened by hackers and by people with all sorts of malicious intent to get our details and publish information about us and get access to our bank accounts and so on. So we have problems about security, and to protect access on the internet we have passwords and security protocols that are constantly being increased in terms of strength and reliability. But the people determined to cheat us, they're also, generally speaking, quite adept and talented at breaking codes and trying to get into the networks and do harm. So it's a constant battle, and that's the way it seems to be, between, on the one hand, people intent upon doing damage, and on the other hand, people who want to use the network for business and for family and for social contacts. Let's talk about the Common Gateway Interface, the CGI. Well, the HTTP is used to move information and data around the web. it's used as a transfer protocol. So it's the hypertext transfer protocol. It's the way in which servers deal with each other, the way servers deal with us. When we contact a server for a website, the server will check to see what our credentials are and will issue the website accordingly. Of course, it's done very fast, but this is the protocol. We have to have a protocol that both sides understand. If they don't, if the server doesn't understand and the browser we're using doesn't understand and so on, then there's nothing going to be transferred. There's a breakdown. So they must use some common language and protocols to enable the data to be transferred. HTTP and XML were not designed to process the knowledge or the data being transported. Processing is conducted by the Common Gateway Interface, CGI. So both HTTP and XML simply move the data. They enable access to the facilities, and they move the data from the point where it resides to the user interface, to the browser or whatever the user is using. But it doesn't process the information. That's done by the CGI. Now, CGI provides a standard way for web servers to communicate with script. It's a program that negotiates the movement of data between a web server and an outside application, such as a database. So with CGI, we access the server. The data is then called by the server. Using CGI, it's formatted and it's delivered to us in an intelligible form, a form that we can use. Otherwise we just get data coming down to us. But what we want is structured data. We want data that we can understand. So CGI undertakes this task. Now, CGI itself can be developed using several languages. For example, Visual Basic, which is one that most people have come across, Visual C++, Power Builder, and so on. And these are used for the NT-based servers. NT is the old Microsoft-based servers. But as I said, there's C, C++, and Perl. These are often used on Unix servers. Servers come in different shapes and forms also. We have all sorts of servers using, say, Linux. We have Unix servers, we have Microsoft servers, and so on. But the point is that CGI must be developed. It's a program that must be developed and which can be used to interrogate the data and bring back to the user what they want. So CGI makes the data usable. Now, the popularity of the World Wide Web. Well, the development of the simple hypertext protocols allow very easy use. I mean, this was a phenomenal breakthrough. It was coming up with hypertext protocols which allow very easy use. In the past, generally speaking, we accessed information in a linear format. We moved from A to B to C to D and so on. So we moved step by step to where we wanted to go. But with hypertext, it's possible to jump. We can jump. We don't have to go from A to B to C. We can go from A to C. It's just a link. And when we get to C, we can jump on to M, and we can jump back to P or forward to P, I can't remember. But the point is, we can just hypertext around the place. And that is a phenomenal jump forward in technology, because now we're able to access information in a non-linear sense. The interface is friendly and encourages extended use. When we see hyperlinks, they're there to help us to jump from one part of a document to another. But the other part could be on a different server in a different document. So we have much wider access to knowledge, information. We can jump from one document to another and back again. We don't have to stop everything, open up a different browser, try to access another site and read something and then go back to the original site and read it. It can all be also formatted for us and presented for us. It's like a continuous document. Information from various sites can be easily combined through hyperlinks. So some researchers may have many hyperlinks in their document, bringing together all sorts of information from videos, visual information, charts, mathematical calculations, text explaining what's all happening. It can all be fed into one document and presented within the document and accessed very easily by just simply clicking on the screen using the GUI, the graphical user interface. There's ever increasingly sophisticated search engines, and these are being developed all the time. Microsoft has got Bing, and Google has got a very powerful search engine with algorithms that are very complex but enable the search engines to function very efficiently to find exactly what we want. If it can't find exactly what we want, it may offer us alternatives. Search engines have evolved into large sites offering many different services also. For example, emails, personalization features, chat rooms, stock quotations, local news and weather. Google keeps it at a minimum, but MSN, for example, and Microsoft, it's like a portal. It provides a lot of information. So there is this idea of portals which may contain a lot of local information, and people may access for information about their local areas. But search engines are a place where perhaps portals could be most easily used, because that's how we find a way around. We're living in the local area, and we want to find the local restaurant or the local barber shop or hairdressing salon or whatever it is. We would go to the search engine. As I said, Google keeps their search engine very clean, very simple. The page is uncluttered, generally speaking. Bing appears on the Microsoft page, but it's associated with MSN to some extent. Let's talk about portals for a moment. Portals may take many forms: communication centers, service centers, virtual shopping malls, town centers, or new hubs. A portal is just built around a particular theme. So, for example, living in some area of the country, there may be a portal covering that, which lists out all the local businesses and all the local facilities and the schools and the hospitals and the times in which these are running, and the local amenities and hotels and special offers and so on. This would form the portal. It would give local news about the area and keep the people of the area informed about what's happening. They have attracted a great deal of attention and are popular amongst advertisers. A portal is essentially a one-stop location for a variety of products, services and information. The web is an inexpensive source of information. Once the information is collected, it can be disseminated very efficiently using the web. Put it on a website and it's available. Now, historically, when the information was collected, it would have to be published, put on paper, and then physically distributed throughout the area. And that was expensive. Now, putting it on a website makes it instantly accessible and colourful, attractive. Admittedly, the people who access it have to have access to the internet and have to have the technology, but that is becoming ubiquitous. The web is developing e-commerce and business-to-business opportunities. I say developing, it already has developed, but it's constantly developing e-commerce, e-business, and also business-to-business opportunities. There are now major sites that have become commonplace amongst web users. For example, eBay, Amazon. There are many sites that operate in this way. Home shopping is now possible and has become very well established, where groceries are delivered to the house or to your home, bought online. So the web is developing new ways of selling and operating all the time. Security is improving, giving payments and data exchange more scope to develop. The development of secure electronic transaction, SET, has further improved confidence in the security of transactions on the web. There's always the threat that hackers will find their way in, and even now we hear of banks that go offline for some time while they deal with some threat, or some major institution has been attacked by international hackers or whatever. But forgetting those for the moment, the web is conscious of their existence, but the web is, and the people who are engaged in using the web and making use of it for productive purposes are constantly making efforts to secure the contacts between the customers and themselves. That's an ongoing process. So we expect the protocols to become more difficult to break over time. That's not to say that the hackers won't continue to try. They will. And some of them, unfortunately, may be sponsored by agencies in other countries or in other areas. And that's something simply we have to live with. Issues to be sorted. Well, there are still issues to be resolved. Government regulation regarding security and confidentiality. Governments are constantly trying to come to terms with what should be allowed and what should not be allowed on the internet, and also governments may want to watch what we're saying and doing online for security reasons. The world has become a very dangerous place, and the governments say that in order to protect us, they need to ensure that the web is used for legitimate purposes, for which it was intended in the first place. It was never designed to be a danger to mankind, and if it's become so, then the governments say that they have a duty to step in and make it a safe place. Taxation, digital cash and smart cards need regulation. It's always the case that taxation is an issue, and with companies operating online, it's difficult to know where the companies are located. It's easy for them to be footloose, particularly if they're not making physical products, if they're offering services only, They may be able to offer those services online, and therefore they're able to avoid taxation. So there's a need for governments to try and work together to resolve the issue. It's only fair that people pay tax. That's what all of us have to do. So companies who operate online and providing services perhaps should pay tax just the same. The problem is, where should they pay the tax? Where are they located? Database integration. Well, the use of databases on the web can be facilitated with what's known as middleware. This form of software acts as a middle operations gateway between the client and the servers operating the websites. So middleware is, as the name suggests, it goes between. It goes between the user and the servers, and it enables the data to be brought back to the user in a usable fashion, a fashion that makes sense to the software that the user has on his or her, say, a laptop or on his or her desktop computers. The CGI script that we talked about earlier could be interpreted as a form of middleware, but middleware could involve other programs as well that reside perhaps on the server, more hefty programs, more detailed programs that reside on the server, which are going to interpret queries and deliver very sophisticated pieces of analysis and information to the user. Middleware operates as a translator of structured data, enabling structured data to be reprocessed and then transmitted in a semi-structured form via the web. So middleware is a processing facility. If we think about it, the data on the web is essentially noughts and ones. It's binary. That's how electronics works. Zeros and ones. Well, zeros and ones are not very good to us because we need to understand what's on the server. So we need software to be able to interpret the zeros and ones and turn it into information, turn the data into information that we can use. And this is through the use of middleware. There are a number of software and middleware packages that permit small-scale exchange of structured data between databases. So there are many different types, in fact, and they're constantly under review, as you would expect. Examples are Oracle, MySQL, DB Perl, also Sybase, which accepts structured queried languages, SQL commands, embedded in HTML forms. When we put up a website that requires customers or users to register with us, we must have a database facility to capture the information that they give us, perhaps their name, their email address, or whatever information we require. And that will be stored on a database, and we should have a database on our server that enables us to collect that information. But we then need to be able to interrogate the database, and we need to have a structure for the database. So it could be MySQL, and we would use perhaps software to retrieve the information from the database and return it to us so we could read it on our databases, perhaps using a format that is understood by other database systems. So we need to collect the information, but then we need to be able to get access to that information and be able to use the information. Configurations. Well, Two worth noting because of ease of use with databases as well as general office software. There's the thin client system, is a PC on a LAN, does not have a hard drive. Files are stored on a network file server. Now this is called a thin client system. In other words, there are PCs connected up to a local area network, and the PCs don't have any storage system. They are dumb terminals. They have nothing. They are just connected up to the LAN, and the local server delivers everything. Delivers their operating system, delivers any files they want, delivers access to the internet, delivers everything that's required of them. And these are called thin client systems. There's no software on them. There's no hard drive. Some may have a hard drive and may have an operating system, but they still don't have any files. The files come off the server. But the true thin client system doesn't have a hard drive. The fat client system stores applications and files on the desktop. So these are fully functional PCs. These are ones that have applications, they have files, they have data, everything stored on the hard drive for these machines. And there are different ways of looking at the usefulness of both. The fat client systems may have security issues associated. On the other hand, if one of those machines breaks down, it may have a backup, so nothing is lost. So with the server system, the thin client system, the server, if it goes down, although it's backed up, it may take down many different clients, many different terminals, and they're all offline until a replacement server is found or the existing one is put back online. So there may be an element of cost and time associated with getting it back up and running. This configuration is efficient since software upgrades are performed on one machine only. Also, only one machine requires upgrading. So the thin client system has got a lot of advantages. The company just deals with the server, makes sure that the server is up to date, it's got the right software, it's got all of the files, it's all organized, it's a communication center, and everything runs down to the PCs. So they don't have to do anything. They don't do any processing themselves. They simply access the information off the server. Multimedia and the World Wide Web. Well, the web enables transmissions that utilizes both audio and video. And indeed, there is a coming together of television and the web. We access a lot more videos online nowadays than we had before, and we have high definition and 4K and so on. So there is much more access to multimedia content now on the web than in the past, and that's a trend that's likely to continue. And indeed, there is more of emergence now, a coming together between television channels and the web. Many television channels have live streams on the web, so it's possible, for example, with the BBC, to see the news live online. A few years ago, it was necessary to have a television set to do this, but now it's on the line, it's online, and can be easily accessed. But many news companies are doing the same. It's not just the BBC. So there is a coming together of technologies in that sense. There's also been the development of three-dimensional representations and virtual reality modeling language, VRML. Virtual reality, it came and then it died away a few years back, but now it's in 2016, it's enjoying something of a comeback, particularly in the gaming arena, where people are able to immerse themselves in games. But it's also starting to be recognized as a useful tool in medicine and in architecture and in many other areas. So there's more interest now in virtual reality than there was in the past. It requires a special browser, a 3D browser, but sometimes people wear special goggles instead of having a browser. They wear special goggles which gives them the effect of being there. And of course, they are involved in that particular arena. They're involved in what they see in front of them. Recently, there's been a dramatic development in audio and video streaming technologies, and these deliver sound and video direct from a server in near real time. There's very little lag in the system nowadays. Some countries see this as the future, and the day of taking down television signals as being somewhat limited. South Korea stream at very high rates to houses, and the houses have fiber optic connections which enable them to access at very high speed. So perhaps the future is the internet, and the more traditional technologies such as radios and televisions and so on, these will somehow be incorporated into the web. Audio and visual data is buffered, it's cached locally to compensate for fluctuations in internet connections and to give continuity. Well, buffering was more of an issue in the past, and we all experienced it when we tried to stream a video, for example. We had to wait for the video to buffer. In other words, take enough data into memory and then continue to download the data, but we could enjoy the video off the buffered memory. And the buffered memory was being topped up by what was streaming in at the moment. But if the stream was unreliable and broke, we would still have the buffer. So it would continue to run for a period of time. Of course, if the stream was properly down, then the buffer would be depleted and the video would end. But with more reliable internet connections, that seems to be less of an issue. The data is digitized and compressed to enable delivery, but obviously the faster the connection, the better the result. In fact, streaming really requires broadband. Now, broadband really should run from about a meg upwards. But to stream video, it's possible to do it at 600k a second, 600 kilobytes a second. Don't forget, in video we're really streaming roughly 24 high quality pictures every second. So it's like taking down 24 high quality pictures every second, which is a lot of data that's coming down. So clearly good internet connections are vital to enable the technology to work effectively. The most popular form of web-based audio streaming is MP3, to listen to music on the web. And it's also downloaded to MP3 players. It's a high compression technology with little loss of quality. So it's almost what's called CD quality. It's almost the same as CD. There's very little loss in terms of quality, and it's compressed. So it's possible to take quite big amounts of data, but when they're compressed they become quite small and it's easy to get them down. They stream very fast. The equivalent for video, by the way, is MP4, which is compression for video. MP3 files require MP3 players, and these may be downloaded depending on the operating system. Popular players such as Media Player, Real Player G2, QuickTime, Winamp, Music Match, X11, Amp, X Audio. There are many of them. In fact, most of the main players nowadays play MP3s, so it's not an issue. Most laptops from the store will have software already built in that will play the MP3. Plus, the technology is incorporated into many streaming facilities that are online, so it's possible to access it through the streaming facility itself. E-commerce benefits from these developments through more effective advertising, say catalogue presentations, customer management relations, business-to-business negotiations, and many other opportunities. So e-commerce facility is enhanced through the use of multimedia as well. It's possible for companies to show their products in video format. It's possible for companies to have training schemes that are online and using video connections. It's possible to have meetings, face-to-face meetings, using free facilities such as Skype, or perhaps using GoToMeeting or one of the more commercial packages. But these all facilitate business contacts and help to reduce costs. So these are some of the streaming facilities that may be used: DreamWorks, Video Live, See You, See Me, it's a GoToMeeting. These are also so useful for face-to-face contacts within business, and but also to demonstrate products, and also have training schemes to teach perhaps operators in other countries in a globalized context, teach operators in other countries how to perform particular functions, have training courses and reinforcement courses. So the internet is a very powerful tool. It's constantly under development. It's constantly making inroads into the way in which we work and live, and it's likely to continue to do so. But it's an important part in any business course that we should understand the capability of the internet and its power, and possibly most importantly, its potential to help us in reducing costs, accessing markets, contacting customers, and generally improving communications within the organization, within industries, and enabling the company to have a higher profile in a more open and a more, in a sense, fashionable setting, a setting which is attractive, that of the internet. That's all we're going to deal with here, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.